All right, welcome everyone. We're having a great time. We're doing some beautiful still life oil painting, and we're going to show you all the steps you need to get this completed. It's a mason jar with a artist brush in some water in this composition. We're just going to use a simple amount of materials and art supplies, two brushes, two synthetic oil painting brushes. We'll use maybe a palette knife to mix up some of our paints. And I think we will have on camera at all times our palette, wax paper. As well, we're going to have on camera at all times our subject matter, which is our, again, mason jar with artist brush. So we'll have this on the right-hand side. We can see that at all times when we're doing this painting. As well, you'll see all the color mixing on the left-hand side over here on the camera. But right now, I'm just zoomed in onto the painting so you can kind of see what the finished painting is going to look like. Something you can definitely do. And again, still life is a great way to practice up your skills with oil painting. So let's not delay. Let's get started. All right, so we just saw the finished painting, and we're going to get started here. Let's enjoy the process here. We're going to do a kind of a simple painting. We're going to do a jar, a mason jar with a paintbrush, an artist brush. And we're going to take our time, and we'll get our drawing done with some kind of a yellow ochre color maybe. We can just put that onto the canvas. We'll also use some pencil just to get some lines, but this is the photograph I'm using. And I can also just, maybe we can, I can zoom in here. So that's the photograph I'm going to work from. So if there's somehow you can do a screen capture or a screenshot with this, those of you that are really good with, you know, technology, it's kind of comes natural. You might be able to do a screenshot or a screen capture really easily. You can also look it up on YouTube, how to do a screen capture, how to do a screenshot with your home computer, your iPhone, your iPad, you know, whatever kind of technology you're using to watch this video, you could do that. What I'll do is I'll just zoom back out again because we need to see everything. We need to see our paints, we need to see our canvas, we need to see our subject matter right here like this. And I can zoom in a little bit. But right now, we need to see the overall composition within the rectangle. So this is our rectangle. We have that. We could take a pencil and then just kind of make a general idea that for this, you can always take calipers like this. These are Golden Mean calipers. These give you a nice space division. So sometimes you can use these to get a pleasant looking space division. So we could say here would be the back of the table like this. So we could even do that. That will be the back of the table. And then maybe we'll go center with our jar and paintbrush, mason jar and paintbrush. We could use a ruler. We could just find something that's going to fit here. This looks good. All right, so we can use this. We can use this ruler here and just get an overall dimension on this. So this is 9 inches wide, so 4.5 inches is center. So 4.5 inches, like that. That's our center point. And then we can take this, and it's a T-square ruler, so you could just rest it on the edge of your canvas and it'll get a perfect right angle with this intersecting point here, like that. Like that. So now we have a center point here for our jar, and then we're going to have the jar a little bit lower than the background, back of the table. So we have a table in the background here. So we'll start our mason jar right about here, and it's got a little bit of a curvature to it at the bottom of the jar, and then we can just sort of just get a couple lines on our canvas. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then it tapers in, and then there's the top of the jar, like that. And there's an oval at the top. So that's basically That's what we're looking like for our mason jar. And then our brush we can use again. Please use rulers if you have to get some straight lines once in a while. I'm not saying you have to use them all the time, but it can be helpful to use our rulers here. So this is a Filbert oil painting brush, and it's sitting in our mason jar. And it goes across like this. And I would say that the brush is about twice the height of the jar. So if our jar is, we measure this and say this is 3.5 inches, so this should be 7 inches high. So if we go up here, 4, 5, 6, 7, so approximately there. And we could shorten it up a little bit. We don't have to make it exactly that long, but that's about what we want there, about there. We go to the 7 like that. Then you can always get a little bit of a taper to it. The brush gets wider as it goes down toward the bottom of the jar, like this, like that. And that's voila, that's it. It's kind of hard to see maybe on camera here. I'll go with darker lines. Let me do this again here. So what I'll do is I'll contour draw now, just with a pencil, so that we can see the drawing, so you can see the drawing accurately. So this might be better than looking at the photograph, you know, screen capturing the photograph. If I show you exactly what the drawing should look like, you'll see that we have the jar, we have the oval at the top of the jar, we have another bit of curvature there, so you'll see that all the curves kind of line up. And you can see the jar kind of, the top of the jar, the neck of the jar is, you know, in a little bit from the sides of the jar. As it goes up, it kind of swales in like that. And then again, we did do the brush here. Since I drew the brush in with a ruler, now I can just go over with a dark pencil line here. Maybe we'll just have the pencil line drawn in, and we won't use anything. We'll just start painting straight away. All right, so now we have our brush in here, and the brush hairs are a little bit bigger here. So let's make the brush hairs a little bigger, like this, like that, and then there's the ferrule of the brush, like that. So the ferrule of the brush is there. And we'll even darken up this brush. We can see it's kind of a wood tone color. We'll make it a little bit richer, reddish brown, to make it pop a little bit more in this composition, this painting. But this is pretty much what we're looking for. I'm not going to get too detailed. I don't think I'll put that wire handle in this painting. I think I'm just going to leave that out. We'll just do the jar. We might do a little bit of, there's some lines on the jar, on the exterior of the jar. We'll put those in just in case we want to embellish the jar a little bit once we start painting it. And I think that should be good. And then of course we have the back of the table, like that. Okay, looks good. So we have our drawing done. And now we'll just look at the paints quick. Again, I always mention you can always go back and look at my first few videos on my channel here, where I just went over the color wheel. So basically, the color wheel is important. You can use it to always put your colors in the same locations on your palette all the time, so that eventually you get used to always having your colors in the same location, and it becomes more of like autopilot for you when you're mixing colors and you're going in and working and creating your color schemes for your paintings. You won't be kind of scratching your head as, where did I put this and that and the other thing, right? You don't want that. You want to have things consistent all the time. So biggest help you can have is keep your colors in a consistent pattern. It doesn't have to be like I have it here exactly. You can do it something, different. You might have a different color wheel you might use, or you might have a different system you might want to develop, or you just have come up with your own. That's fine too. I'm not the authority on, mixing paints or, laying out your palette. I'm just showing you what I do, what I use. So I use the color wheel, and then I have my, primaries, yellow, red, and blue. Pretty much yellow, red, blue, just like this here. And then if I want to mix anything else from there, I can start mixing my secondary colors, the orange and green, blue and yellow, green, purple. So you can mix your secondary colors from your primaries. And you'll see too that I have my color, I use like a few of each of the same color. So I have kind of like an alizarin crimson type red, and then a cadmium type red. And I use the Artisan brand paints. So Winsor & Newton makes these beautiful water mixable oil colors. This is what I use, water mixable oil colors. This way I don't use any turpentine or any acetone or any kind of like flammable liquids. I don't use any of that. I just have water in my water bucket, much like watercolor painting. But these are oils, so I can clean up with soap and water with my brushes. I can use water to thin down my paint if I want to. So basically these water mixable oils are perfect. They clean up easily. If I get it on my clothes, no big deal. So if we get some schmutz on our clothes, it comes out in the wash, no big deal. Or on any furniture or something like that, not a big deal. So these are really great paints. I use them all the time for my oil painting. So we have that. So again, I use the alizarin crimson and cadmium red in the Winsor & Newton Artisan water mixable oil paints. And then we have a cadmium yellow and then a cadmium lemon yellow. Then we have a cerulean blue and a French ultramarine blue. And then we have a burnt umber. We have white, of course, titanium white. And then we have a little bit of, this is phthalo green, which is kind of like a viridian green, really beautiful green. So again, I think I have my paints right over here, but again, it's kind of laid out. My paints are the same way as my color wheel. That's what the main point. And I do have videos. If you just check out Chris Petrie oil painting video or Chris Petrie color wheel, oil color wheel. I have watercolor paintings too online, so I have a lot of watercolor paint videos on YouTube. So you just have to make sure you put in oil painting. And then you'll see my oil painting videos, my previous videos that I've created. And I do have color wheels that we did in oil paints. So this is my titanium white in the Artisan brand. And of course, this is the yellow ochre. I didn't put any yellow ochre out. Let me do that. So you can put out as many of the same colors you want. There's variations, of course, on the yellows. But you'll see the color sets again. This is like an alizarin crimson. This is a cadmium red, French ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, burnt umber. We have again the phthalo green, cadmium lemon yellow, yellow ochre, and cadmium yellow. So this is plenty of paint, plenty of colors. That's all we would need. And then I like to just mix my colors by feel when I look at it, and I look at it on my palette. And when I'm mixing, then I see what I like. I say, oh, that looks really good, and then I will use that color. And if I need a little more of a yellow in my paint, or a little bit of more blue or red or whatever it is, I just do it by feel. I just look at it and say I enjoy that look. We notice in this photograph it's pretty much monochromatic. There's just pretty much white background and a little bit of wood tone on the brush, and the rest is all basically like, grays and white. So we'll put more pop in this painting with color. So we'll kind of have a really nice finished look to this painting when we're done. So I think I'll go with, let me see, we have our palette knife. We might use our palette. I think we'll use our palette knife. And then I use my, I bought a number of paintbrushes that I really enjoy. I think these are fantastic. These are Princeton Aspen brushes. And they're very, you you have the beautiful like cerulean blue stripe on them. So they're easy to find if you want these type of brushes for your oil painting. There's many out on the market. I have some of the other brushes I might have used in the past. So there's other brushes I have in the description box below, just so you have an idea of other brushes that are out there. But these are the ones I've been using recently. I think they really work well. And they clean up really nice with soap and water. And they're synthetic, partially synthetic. Okay, so I'm going to go with a round brush to start with, like this. And let's take a quick break. I just have to get some water. I have to run across the other side of the studio here to get some water, and then we'll start our painting. Okay, I have some fresh clean water now in my water bucket, and I usually when I'm working with oils here, I'm just going to have a paper towel in my hand at all times to dry off water off my brush when I rinse my brush, or take paint off my brush too. If I have too much paint on there, so paper towels work great. Keep this handy. And then I think the first thing we'll do is we'll mix up some of that wood brush. Okay, so I'm going to pick up some yellows and reds and oranges, brown, cadmium yellow. There we go. Nice wood look. So we'll start out with our darks here, like this. Get some nice rich looking darks. I would modulate our reds and golds and things like that. I would rinse off my brush, take off some of that. Maybe we'll take some more of this here, some yellow ochre. And again, if you ever need more paint, please just go right in and grab your paints and your paint tubes and squeeze out more paint. The idea is not to really, we probably wouldn't want to start picking up another color and saying, oh, I ran out of yellow ochre, so I'll just start using some of this yellow, cadmium yellow. I can use some of that cadmium yellow, and we are right now. But if you need more color, just get your tubes again and pick them up and squeeze out a little bit of, more paint. Don't skimp on your paints. That's not good to do, because you need the colors. If you're working with a certain color, you don't want to just start changing colors because just get that tube out, put some more on there. All right, so we're off to a good start. We can do some shadowing over here. We'll say the light's coming from this side a little bit. Let's do that. So this will be our shadow over here. We'll get a little bit of shadow like this. There we go. Good work, and we are in business here. We're getting some of these, golden colors in here. And I like this. Let's get the darks in first, because you can kind of see from the photograph here the darks are really the brush. And there's some dark shadows too in the jar a little bit. We'll get some of that in there too. If you have to add a little bit of burnt umber in there to get a little more of the dark in there, feel free. And have a good time with this. This is what we're here to do. Have a fun time. Let's enjoy ourselves here painting. And we're not going to be stressing too much. This is our fun time to enjoy. I'll pretend there's a water line in the container. So I'm just going to make a water line about here, even though there's no water in there. In the photograph, I'll just pretend to put a little water line in there. And what else do we have here? So I think we could have some of that yellow ochre. We're going to do a little bit of that. There's a little bit of some threads on the top of the jar. That. Again, light's coming from this direction, so more of the darker shadows will be on the right side over here. Okay, looks good. Now let's get some of this yellow ochre and brown and red. Let's just get the back of the table in here, like this, just to get ourselves started with some darks, some lines in here, like that. And we'll go right through the jar. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is start mixing some white here with the same colors we were just using here. So I want to keep that color. We're going to repeat our colors. If you can always remember that, try to repeat the same colors in your painting. A nice kind of tan, beigey kind of interesting color there. And we will actually do a variation too. We're going to do some, I like the green there. I'm going to take some of that over here and mix up some phthalo green mixed in with that, and a little bit of brown to just neutralize a touch. There we go. Okay. So now I've kind of mixed up what I consider a really good background color overall. And then maybe we'll start putting in our background. You can go with a bigger brush if you want at this point. I'm going to go in and get a little more green. And a little more, maybe some gold in there. And it's as simple as that. I'm going in and we're just painting this alla prima. And what's fun about oils is you have a lot of time to work. You can just take your time. There's no rush with anything. You can just get your brush strokes on here like this. You can work with a smaller brush and just keep working your colors like this. And if you want, you can bump up to a larger brush if you want to. You can use your palette knife if you like. And I'm just going to start to fill in the jar. And if you want to, you can leave in those pencil lines faintly, just enough so that you can keep a track of your lines for your jar. That'll be very important if you can do that. To just leave some lines here and there. And again, I'm mixing some phthalo green with white and then a little bit of burnt umber to neutralize the color mix. Okay. And then you can lighten up certain areas and make things lighter. Maybe I'll make the table a little bit lighter with some of the green, some of the beige and tan color. And again, feel free to use a larger brush if you want to. I think I'm just going to stick with this brush. Maybe I'll use a different brush once I get beyond this area here where the details are. But I'm hoping you're having fun so far. We'll take a break in a little bit. It's kind of nice to take a break. And again, with oils, it's really fun. You can just take your time. There's no rush with anything. You can work as little or as much as you like. And nothing, it's not going to dry. It'll dry very slow. Water mixable oil paints usually dry within 3-4 days, but you can go back in and paint the next day and pick up where you left off, and the paint will be wet for you, so you don't have to worry that things will have dried off or anything like that. So we're having a enjoyable time here with the paints, and I would try to avoid, if you can, mixing up your background color with your brush, your colors that we made with our brush here. So our artist brush here, our oil painting brush that we created, we want to leave that without really going into it or touching it too much with these colors here, which are our lighter background colors. If you can, as much as you can, try to work around that brush. That'll be much better. That will actually be important, because if you start taking that color and mixing it in with the background color, it could affect it quite a bit, the color. All right, this is looking good. We're leaving a little bit of, you can see I'm leaving that under painting there, where we did our dark along here, along the back of the table. So this way we don't lose that line. We want to make sure we keep that. You can paint over that later though. All right, so you can see we've done a lot of work so far. We've got really everything in great shape. We've painted all the way around the jar, all the way around the brush. What's left? We are in great shape. Now all it is fine-tuning what we have here. So if you could imagine, once you're at this point here where you have all the way around the jar painted, all the way around this brush here, carefully we went around this so that we didn't touch that brush too much, really. Okay, so you have that all the way around the jar and then inside the jar. Now it's just a matter of covering the rest of the canvas. We'll use maybe a larger brush to finish up over here around the rest of the canvas. And then we'll go in and just do those final touches for the brush and the jar. But I think we are really in great shape. So let's take a quick break. We'll grab a bigger brush when we come back and we'll mix up some more color. I'll have to squeeze out some more white. Might need, I think everything else is good. I think I just need a touch more of white for this. Okay? All right, let's come back in a few seconds and finish up. All right, we're really in great shape again. We're just going to finish up now. We really have this under control, in a major way. So what we have here is we were using the number 2 round brush. And again, this is the Princeton Aspen series brushes. These are fantastic. They're synthetic hair. And then we have number 8, we're going to use now to get the larger areas. Let's start doing that. So once we block out the rest of these larger areas, we're going to be all set. And then we'll just go back in and use this number 2 again to just do some of those final details with that. So what I'll do is next I just needed to add some more white here. So we'll put some more white out on our palette, and this is waxed paper, palette paper it's called, by I think it's this, that might be Strathmore might make this, but I have all my art supplies in the description box below, so feel free. Everything's on Amazon. It's real simple. You click on the link below for any of the art supplies you might be interested in. Like let's say you have brushes and you have paints, but you might need some wax paper for your palette paper. Well, you just check it out below. There's the description of everything down there, and then you'll be all set. So let's we could use our palette knife if we would like to, and mix up some more luxurious paint. Obviously I was using the phthalo green and some burnt umber to neutralize it a little bit, gray it down a little bit. That makes some beautiful color there. I think I had a little bit of yellow ochre there too in that mix. And you don't have to thoroughly mix it. You can leave the identifiable colors right in there like that. I'm not sure if you can see all the really fine colors all mixed throughout that paint, but I didn't mix and mix and mix and mix and mix and mix. I just got some of the colors we were using before and mixed it together, but didn't overmix it. I try to avoid overmixing paint. I think it looks good if you can see some different variations in your paint mixes. So we might need a little more green. Okay, then take our palette knife like this, set that aside there, and let's just get this on here. There we go. Have fun with your color. Have fun with your brush strokes here. Don't be afraid to put thick color on there, impasto brush strokes, where you're leaving thick paint on your canvas. It looks good, actually. It adds another dimension to your painting. So here, if anything, we're always trying new things. Cross-hatching like this. We're always trying new things as we go. Maybe we're in search of some new technique we want to do, or some look we're looking for. That's fine. That's how it works with art. You're the artist. You take your paints, your brushes, your canvas, and you have fun and enjoy it and come up with things that you're creating. It's your painting. So you want to go thick on your paint, go thick. You want to go thin, go thin. Whatever you want to do. And we'll just do the same thing here. We're just going to finish covering the canvas with our colors. This is the table portion of the subject matter. So this is the table that the glass or the mason jar is sitting on. So we have that covered. We have the background wall. There's a wall behind this, and that's covered too. We have that covered with paint. So basically, if you can imagine, we have everything covered now, completely 100%. And now it's just a matter of fine-tuning it. So I would say a little more burnt umber over here now. Touch more phthalo green. And maybe we'll make this a little darker up here. And if we want to go a little darker, we add more burnt umber, more phthalo green, a little bit of that mix there, which is the yellow and brown and red. And you can see that looks really good. And if we darken it up there, it looks good. That kind of... And then what we do is we clean off the brush with our paper towel and then pick up more dark paint, because you can see that once we go back in and start painting, we start to mix and get more of that lighter color back into the darker tonal value we're actually creating right now. So that's why it's important to keep the brush, rinsing off the brush if you want to get those little bit of a darker tone on your canvas. But we already have a lot of thick light colored paint, so if you want to get this a little bit of a darker tone on your canvas, you have to almost pick it up, get it on there, and then clean off your brush again and go back in and just keep kind of working that idea. Because it's going to, again, it's going to mix. Once I go in like that already, I've got to go back in, pick up more. Like that. I got to take off the paint and get the dark paint again. And that looks good. You can see that now we do have that little bit of shadow on that wall behind our table. So it makes a good indication there when we look at the painting that there's a wall behind and then the table's got more light on top. And that's fine. So now we have that completed. Now our final bit of work is just going to be, you know, getting some more detail with the brush and the jar. So I'm going to set my large brush down now. I think we're going to go back to our other number 2 brush, two round. And we'll start, I think we might need a little more burnt umber. We might have to make some more darker here, I think. So we'll add some burnt umber. So phthalo green and burnt umber. That's going to be a nice dark. We can have that for our dark. Again, I wouldn't start mixing in any other colors here, so I really didn't use any of the blue. I did put out a lot of this blue here, the French ultramarine and cerulean, but I don't think I used any. I did use the reds, though, over here for the brush and the gold color. So yeah, actually, at this point now, when we're finishing up the painting, we wouldn't go into any colors that we haven't used already, because that would just kind of, it would make it, we would kind of see it that it would look out of place, the color. So the colors need to harmonize together throughout the whole painting, and then that's why we wouldn't go in and add anything else. Unless if you did want to add something else, then you'd have to start mixing it into your composition again, your color scheme. So if we wanted to add, let's just say for instance, if we wanted to add some cerulean blue, we could do that. We would just have to take that cerulean blue and sort of mix it, a little bit everywhere in the painting. Like, a little bit up there, at the top, over here, over here. We'd have to mix it all around, and, to make it look like it's going to be harmonized with the rest of the painting. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to kind of stick with the colors we've used. We'll use some more reds here and brown. And the only thing I usually do is I'm trying to be careful. I leaned into my paint on my canvas, so now let's see if I can find, I have a dowel here. So let's take the dowel and I'll start just putting in some interesting, maybe some yellow and red there. And then maybe some more here. And then I think what I can do is we'll use some of this here. And that's going to be the metal, ferrule. And then maybe I'll clean off my brush really well, like this, even in the water. And then I'll go in and get some white. So now I'm kind of picking up a little bit of highlights. That's a bit of a highlight on the metal ferrule. And then we can also rinse off the brush again, dry off the water really well, dry off the water really well, pick up some of that dark we made with the burnt umber and phthalo green. And then we can put a little bit of a dark on this side, like that. And maybe another bit of dark there. So we're kind of just really now, again, fine-tuning things. Here, we did have some water in this container. So for the water, we could pick up some of this white. Like that. And then we can rinse off the brush again, dry off on the paper towel or tissue, and we can make sort of like an area where you sometimes, when you have something in water, the brush becomes offset, and you kind of see like another line here like this, like that. And then over here, we have some more of that reddish brown. And then this one over here. This offsets over this way a little bit. Just to give us that little bit of feeling of seeing the water there. And a little bit of dark here. Like that. And we can go in here and do a little bit of that's light over there. That's in the light, so that's kind of this over here. We can do a little bit of curve over this way and get our line this way here a little bit like that. Just have a little bit of and we want to cover over that so I'll take some more of that white, green, brown, and we're just mixing up some more of that grayish green. And then we can just do this. Just to give us a little indication of the jar on the other side. And then, what else do we have here? We could do more. This is light, very light over here. So I'm just going to use a lot of white paint with a little bit of that greenish brown mix, that grayish green. And we'll just put some thick white paint right there. Then we could take some really thick white paint, almost just straight white. And see if we can get a bit of like that, where the light is on the water. So that's a little bit more giving us that feeling of the water there. And across here like so. Rinse off the brush really well, and I think we're kind of in a good place where we're going to do just a few more details and I think we'll have it. So we're going to go over here. I'll make sure I dry off my brush really well, my number 2 round brush really well here on paper towel. And then I'll come over here like so and use some thick paint, though. I don't want, right now we're using mostly thick paint. And then rinse off the brush again, dry off on the paper towel. And again, we'll pick up some of that reddish brown. Except now we're going to have to maybe mix up a little more thicker paint because it's actually we have a lot of thick paint on here now, so we're just going to do some of those to jar. Like that. I think that looks fine. Maybe some more red and brown, cadmium red, brown, a little bit of cadmium orange. Let's see if we can just get a little bit of really nice few pops of color over here. Looks good. Maybe a little more. Like this. And it looks good if we can just get those few little bits of red there and orange, like a red-orange kind of look. And the same over here too, like that. Maybe a little more grayish green, like that, just to make an indication of the top of the jar. Maybe another rinse off the brush, dry off the water. And then we want to do a little bit of that shadow. A little bit of a warm shadow, so we'll make it kind of warmer. But that'll look good, like that. We'll mix it in. So we just want to make it we want to kind of keep that shadow. We don't want to have it incredibly dark or anything like that, just so and maybe we'll just add some white down here, like that. All right, I don't want to fuss too much with it. I think that it looks good the way it is. All we have to do now is let this dry and we'll sign our painting. So I hope you had a lot of fun. Still life is a great thing to practice on because it's basically a real focused effort. When you do still life, you know, it's just a couple, you can simplify things. Maybe it's not a whole large composition of a lot of complicated subject matter. We're just sticking with a real simple, you know, we have our mason jar with a paintbrush, and you can kind of see how we just mixed our colors. Very simple color scheme, nothing complicated at all. Got our paint, everything onto the canvas. Once we have our drawing done, it's pretty much, the rest is sort of just having fun with the paints and mixing some colors, you know, nothing, it's not rocket science. And so we're going to actually get together again in a couple of weeks. So we're always getting together every couple of weeks. I'm hoping you'll subscribe on the right hand side below. This way you don't miss a thing. We get together again every 2 weeks on Sundays, Saturdays, or Sundays, and we practice our oil painting. And we have plenty of videos in the archives now, so you have probably 10 or 12 or 15 videos you can go back and practice on those too if you kind of get the urge to want to do a few more paintings or work on some things. We have plenty of other paintings too on my channel here you can work on. But we're just going to keep working in the future here on this channel. And great to have you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.